The man rolls down his car window, ignoring the sand and dust streaming in. He then rolls up his sleeves, attempting to reach outside. As he gets more involved, the man seems to glimpse a glimmer of hope for escape. But in the next second, a surge of dirt pours into the car through the cracks. Panicking, he forcefully pushes the car window glass up, only to discover that the sunroof above is splitting apart at a visible speed. In a moment of terror, he rips off a section of tape, which he applies to the crack. He continues this task tirelessly, but despite layers of tape, he feels no less endangered. He then spots a car alarm lock on the ground, fishes the key from the driver's seat, and inserts it into the lock. As he activates the alarm lock, he quickly straightens it and props it against the sunroof. Only after securely fastening the makeshift lever does he dare to relax his guard. Exhausted, the man swallows hard, grabbing a bottled water nearby and gulping it down without a second thought. As the water slides down his throat, he can't help but feel a childlike inability to stop. But as he's about to finish the last drop, he remembers that this might be all the fresh water left in the car. Deciding it's better to enjoy what's left than to regret not finishing it, he finishes the bottle, even using his finger to squeeze out the last bit. He savors the taste, then swallows the last drop, experiencing the joy of living in the moment. However, the biggest crisis remains. A man now must do something, because he knows that waiting passively will lead to death. So he quickly gathered all the things in the car that could be useful. But after searching for a long time, he didn't find anything that could help him escape. The man was completely overwhelmed. The emotions that had been bottled up for a long time were also released in this moment to the fullest. However, the violent actions nearly caused the tunnel to collapse again. Fortunately, the man managed to control himself in time, and luckily saved his life again. But just then, a sound of tick-tock came from behind. The man then began to carefully look for the source. Following the direction of the wet seat, he quickly found the origin of the sound. It turned out to be the crack in the car's sunroof, with water dripping down. Seeing this, he immediately put his mouth over it. But given the current situation, getting drunk was like a pipe dream, so he thought of using a nail clipper to make the crack bigger. But unfortunately, the sharp blast cut his finger. Realizing that force wasn't working, the man immediately took out a credit card from his wallet, then folded it into a rectangle. After that, he put the tail end of the card into the bottle opening, and a simple water collecting tool was thus created. With the dripping water from the crack, it didn't take long for the man to get a bottle of fresh, drinkable water. However, as time passed, he soon felt difficulty in breathing. In this enclosed space, the oxygen that was already scarce has now been exhausted. The man pulled out the steel pipe inside the folding chair, confirming that it was hollow, then took it and carefully poked it through the hole in the skylight. After ensuring there were no cracks in the glass on either side, he began to push the hollow pipe upward with great effort. Suddenly, a surge of murky water gushed in through the pipe, startling the man and causing him to step back in alarm. He quickly withdrew the pipe from deep within and, with a roll of waste paper in his hand, formed it into a strip and stuffed it into the hole, sealing off all openings and stopping the water from flowing further. Undeterred by this setback, the man knew this step was crucial to his survival. However, it was then that he noticed a bottle of mineral water nearby, quickly opened the lid, punctured it with a paper clip, threaded a thin rope through the hole, tied a noose with his mouth, secured the knot firmly to the lid, and then passed the rope through the pipe. Using the bottle as a cover, he blocked the hollow part and smiled at his ingenious solution. With renewed hope, he repeated the steps, inserting the pipe into the hole in the skylight once more. Things went smoothly until he realized that the pipe, now only a meter long, was entirely submerged in mud, indicating that the buried section was much deeper than he anticipated. He had no choice but to grab another pipe and repeat the process, threading a wire through the rope on the other end. He exerted all his strength to push the two separated steel pipes together. Clearly it was more difficult than the first time. He could only use his full strength to shove them upward, and already he was on his third attempt. The man realized how dire his situation was, but it was too late. He could only work faster, hoping to free himself as quickly as possible. However, the confined space had extremely low oxygen levels, and with the man's considerable physical exertion, he soon felt difficulty breathing. He had to stop and use something to prop the steel pipes in place. Indeed, with a tool in place, the efficiency improved significantly, and the man could take a short rest. But not long after, he discovered another problem. Even with the jack pumped to its limit, the steel pipe had not passed through the soil to reach the ground. The man had no choice but to drape a towel over his shoulder and lie on the spot where the jack was positioned. As he lifted his body upward, the previously stubborn steel pipe was disappearing at a visible speed. Suddenly, the man felt a relief in his shoulders. He couldn't believe it and stood still for a moment. After catching his breath, he knelt down and gasped for air. The man had to take this seriously. This concerns his own life safety. In order to verify what he suspected, he found a piece of wire and pushed it into a steel pipe, and with every inch it went in, his heart would tremble a little too, until he felt some resistance on the wire. He suddenly pushed it upwards forcefully. The feeling was as if he had been constipated for a week. And then suddenly, everything became smooth. Quickly, the man pulled out the wire, and eagerly brought his cheek close to the hollow tube. Through the empty passage, he finally saw a glimmer of light. Trapped 3 meters underground, a man excitedly shouted at the top of his lungs, only to successfully connect to the ground using an empty steel pipe in an environment with insufficient oxygen. While loudly calling for help upwards, he breathed in the fresh air coming from above. Though it was just a little, The man's expression was as if he had just drunk nectar from the clouds. However, his smile quickly vanished as, even after screaming at the top of his lungs from below, he received no response. His voice became hoarse, and in a dizzy state, he picked up a newspaper, then promptly set it on fire, hoping to attract attention with the smoke. This act was like picking up a stone to hit his own foot, for not only did it fail, but it also caused him much trouble. Although he quickly extinguished the flame, dense smoke quickly filled the car. Coughing violently, the man had to lower his head and cover his nose and mouth. Fortunately, the smoke was carried away through the ventilation pipes, allowing the man to save his life. However, one piece of bad news after another. When he discovered that the steel pipe was rapidly sinking, and even the pipe mouth was blocked by earth brought down with it. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the man quickly turned, attempting to grab a length of wire from the driver's seat, but failed to notice the descending pipe behind him. By the time he turned around, a gash was sliced across his forehead from the pipe. The pain also caused the man to struggle instinctively. After a long time, he finally remembered to take off his coat and bandaged the wound simply. But one wave had not subsided before another arose. Due to the violent shaking of the man just now, a secondary collapse occurred in the tunnel. The car roof was instantly pressed into a large pit by the mud. In a crisis, he used an extra steel pipe to successfully support the collapsing shed. Although he was temporarily out of danger, the man realized that staying here any longer was just a matter of time before death. So, he decided to take a chance. In order to have enough oxygen to support his plan, the man took out the spare tire from the car and connected a hose to the valve core. After confirming that the gas inside could temporarily replace oxygen, he covered his body with gasoline to reduce the friction as he crawled out. After everything was ready, the man hit the glass of the skylight with a stick. The already shaky mud fell down instantly without any resistance. With the tire hanging around his neck, the man started to move upwards. Then, he used the steel pipe to dig down the mud above. When he felt his strength fading, he took a breath of the gas inside the tire. As time passed little by little, the man still saw no sign of light. Just as he was about to reach his limit, a familiar tremor that he could no longer ignore struck again. He wanted to struggle, but it was futile. However, this collapse was a disaster for the man, but it was also a blessing brought by his perseverance, because a large amount of mud was falling downwards. He, who was already close to the ground, soon dug through the thin soil. When a ray of light shone on the man's face, he felt like he was redeemed. Excitedly, he reached out towards the world he longed for. At this moment, the man just hoped it wasn't a dream.